friends, and welcome to our streaming services. If you're with us on Facebook or YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to get notifications when we have new videos. If you're with us on Zoom, say hello in the chat. We'd love to say hello back to you. And if you are brand new here, go on and sign our guest book at oakcliffuu.org/guest. Announcements. Workday Wednesdays. Scott, show some pictures. Man, seriously, they have been doing such a great job week after week after week. If you'd like to join them, show up any Wednesday from 4 to 8 p.m. They'll feed you. You get to hang out with your friends and paint stuff and do stuff. It's good times. Work out those muscles. All right. We are still working on the new policies and procedures for the church with special priority currently on finance and membership policies. As we move to reopen and as our church gets bigger and as we invest in growth and as we are growing, these obviously are becoming more and more important. So if you would like to help to shape the direction that we go in, figure out our, again, it's those things that are so crucial, but you just don't think about until you need them. So if you'd like to shape these things and help us to create the foundations of rules and what we do at the church in these areas or others, then join us on Thursdays at 1 p.m. or contact Beth at president@oakcliffuu.org. All right, widening the circle of concern. This next group is starting Sunday, August 8th at 7:30 p.m. If you're wanting to join us, and I say us, I will be there. I'm so excited about this new direction with the church that we're taking. Really, I'm just excited. I'm excited. I won't go into it. I'm excited. I've talked about it before. So if you'd like to join us, or if you have showed an interest but didn't get an email, go ahead and contact Renee at vice-president@oakcliffuu.org. It's going to be loads of fun and lots of learning, lots of work, which is what we need to get done. All right. So check out our e-blast for lots of great information, all the information that you're not getting here, news, update, well, some information you're getting here, but for all of the news, updates, schedules, meeting times, and links, a weekly message from our president, Beth Furry, telling you about all the things that are going on every single week. That woman is busy, especially, I knew that, but now that I'm reading these president's reports every week, I'm just like, wow, okay. So lots of great stuff. Check out your e-blast. It is Sunday, so Talkback is at 11:15 today. Please join us. It's a wonderful time. Adult RE is at 1 o'clock. And if that is not enough for you, our UUCOC social hour is every Friday at 9 p.m. Good times. All right, y'all. Here we go. Ready? Member anniversaries. Yay. All right. This week we have RC Saldana Flores. Yes, RC. Gosh, it feels like forever, doesn't it? All right. We'll all be together again soon. We will have a lot of faith in that. All right, everybody. I hope that you all have a very happy Sunday. Bye-bye.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Oak Cliff. Thank you for having the curiosity and the courage to join us. Thank you, whoever you are, whatever spiritual tradition, gender, age, race, sexual orientation, or background you may bring to our community. We hope you will find here comfort, connection, challenge, respect, and above all, love.
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, spirit of love, compassion, and forgiveness.
And now in Spanish. Que esta luz que ahora encendemos nos inspire a usar nuestros dones y poderes para sanar y no para herir, para ayudar y no para impedir, para bendecir y no para maldecir, para servirte a ti, espíritu de amor, compasión y perdón.
Break Down Barriers by Reese Williams. Spirit of life, come to us to break down barriers, to widen horizons, to make us less judgmental. Help us to see the larger picture and the kinder conclusion, to love and let live, to embrace and forgive, to sustain and care. Help us to reach out to our better selves, that we may love more and hate less, care more and reject less, that bound together by understanding, we may sustain each other through trial and tribulation, through joy and happiness, through sickness and health. Help us, O God, to be joined in a common purpose of hope and fulfillment. Renew and revive us. We seek a common holy ground for one and all. Amen.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Please join me in affirming our covenant to one another. Because we love one another, we honor each individual's spiritual journey. We celebrate life's abundance and service to each other, our community, and the world. We connect with each other in love, respect, and acceptance. Thus do we covenant together.
And now in Spanish. ¿Por qué nos amamos uno al otro? Honramos el viaje espiritual de cada individuo. Celebramos la abundancia de la vida en el servicio a entre sí, nuestra comunidad y el mundo. Ponemos en contacto a unos con otros en el amor, respeto y aceptación. Así que hacemos pacto.
In our community, we make time each week to share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because each person in this community has value. Each person's experience matters. We share our sorrow with one another today, knowing that sorrow comes into each person's life, knowing that together we offer comfort. At this time, we invite you to publicly post your sorrows and prayer requests to the Zoom chat or send those to our Facebook Messenger.
When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love when I breathe in. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
We also share our joys with one another, knowing that joy comes into all of our lives, knowing that joy calls unto joy, knowing that together our voices can rise in a chorus of celebration. Today, we share the joy of this moment, this community, present and awake together, deep calling unto deep, joy calling unto joy, light calling unto light. Please share your joys publicly by post in the Zoom chat or send those to our Facebook Messenger or speak those aloud.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stems of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Hello, my name is Jodi Voice Yellowfish. I am Muskogee Creek, Oglala, Lakota, and Cherokee. I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and I'm a product of the U.S. government's relocation program, or the Relocation Act, I should say, as Dallas is a relocation site, which is one of the cities that was chosen to be a site where American Indians or tribal citizens would leave their homelands, their reservations, in seek of education, jobs, things like that, but with the promise of assistance. And Dallas is one of those sites. Dallas, amongst several others like Los Angeles, Denver, just tons of different places all over the country, were these sites. And in these cities now, in these huge bustling metropolis, are generations and of people, of tribal citizens. Some of these cities can have hundreds of different tribes represented, like Dallas. But yeah, I am a product of that program. My parents came to Dallas different times. My mother, as a child, she came on the program with her family, and my father, as an adult, came on his own. yeah, they eventually met and had a family, and I am of that family. And I chair MMIW Texas Rematriate. MMIW is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. I chair that program. We were a program of American Indian Heritage Day in Texas for about 2 years, and we kind of outgrew the mission we had within that organization, where it was more advocacy and education and awareness raising. We were helping find people and helping MMIW families find resources, and eventually we became a resource for our community, and we decided to branch out on our own, and we're in that process of becoming a nonprofit. We are in the process of building new membership, but still constantly being able to help families and be at the ready to help families in those situations when a loved one goes missing. And excuse me, I'm getting over allergies and a cold and dealing with the Saharan dust and things like that. So my throat's a little, my voice is a little hoarse. But along with MMIW Rematriate, I am on the steering committee for Dallas Truth, Racial Healing Transformation, or Dallas TRHT. And I also organize with Our City, Our Future, and just really active in a lot of different things. And not only the American Indian community, but in the city as well. So I am actually filling in for Yolanda Bluehorse, which is a friend of mine and community member as well. And when I spoke to Yolanda, she mentioned about Indigenous survival being the core kind of theme of what she was going to discuss. And, you know, and dealing with that topic or that train of thought, you know, it goes into tons of other things like dealing with colonization and genocide and trying to decolonize and indigenize our lives in general, especially being here in a city, in a state like Texas. So survival is really our everyday reality. Dealing with MMIW, which, excuse me, I guess just to take a moment to kind of get a base understanding of the crisis that we deal with, which is MMIW. So it's Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. And you'll also see it written or said as MMIWG2S. And that is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit People. But also to include and not exclude any one of our relatives. You'll also see MMIP for people or MMIR for relatives. And we started as MMIW, so we just kept that name, but we do not exclude anyone from the work that we do. Man, woman, child, we all help whoever, and we are all inclusive in our work with the understanding that we embrace two-spirit relatives, trans folks, everybody. If you are in need or your family is in need, we will do our best to help. And what we do is we kind of fill in the gaps for families that are in crisis, that are in panic mode when somebody goes missing. Not only do we help them file police reports or speak to the media or talk to law enforcement, we help them understand the entire process. We help create flyers, and we also have helped on the ground searches, and also help to coordinate on the ground searches that are out of the area. Like recently we helped a family on the Alabama Coshada reservation in Livingston, Texas, and it happened so quickly we weren't able to be down there in time, so we helped coordinate from afar. But that is some of what we do. Excuse me. And some understanding of the crisis. We kind of start talking about this crisis work with the understanding that this country was founded on violence, and that colonial violence is what founded this country, and what came from that is genocide and gender-based colonial violence. And we mention that because that's still our reality. We still deal with colonized systems of health and resources and sovereignty and issues like that, where you kind of feel helpless trying to understand or trying to survive, basically. And MMIW deals with a lot of issues dealing with citizenship, sovereignty, location, dealing with jurisdiction, where you can get help, if it's on tribal land, if you're in a city, if you have citizenship with your nation. Yeah, there's just a lot of things that make this crisis situation. And you might hear this crisis referred to as a epidemic. They'll say numbers of epidemic proportion, things like that. But we choose to call it a crisis because this is a man-made situation. It isn't a natural situation that would include a pandemic or epidemic, levels. But just to kind of have an understanding of how huge this crisis is, I'll throw a couple numbers out there for you to understand this a little better. 5,712 cases of MMIWG were reported in 2016. And only 116 of them were logged in to the Department of Justice database. Now, that helps you understand the lack of understanding and the lack of acknowledgement of this crisis, but it doesn't account for all the numbers, right? And that's a big part of our work as well, is understanding that because we're always in survival mode, the numbers aren't right. There is no database that the government can refer to. There is a database that's taken care of by the Sovereign Bodies Institute, and a lot of government agencies, law enforcement agencies, all kinds of people, people in academia, they want access to this database. But because we call this data sacred, the Sovereign Bodies Institute will not allow any non-Native or non-American Indian person to access the database. And we call this data sacred because it has to deal with our ancestors' names and relatives' names. So it's a very sacred act to speak their names in spaces, speak their names publicly, to share information. It goes against sometimes tribal custom and culture, basically. And that's just something our counterparts, non-Native folks don't know. Not that it's to be held against them, but it's not common knowledge. So that's something within our everyday survival that we deal with. Just a lack of understanding and a lack of openness to that understanding. But in dealing with or understanding the idea of Indigenous survival, I think the MMIW work that we do is the perfect example. In a lot of MMIW organizations and a lot of coalitions and circles that deal with this work, a lot of people actually refer to our first MMIW case or our first human trafficking case as Sacagawea and Matoa'aka. And Matoa'aka is, as a lot of people know, are commonly known, her name is Pocahontas. Now, both of these people were young. Pocahontas was only 12 years old when she met as Disney calls him, John Smith. But they were very young in their life, and if it was today, they would not be able to give consent. So just that understanding of their existence, and that they were taken from their family and their homelands, and with Mathoa Aka specifically, she was taken overseas and never to return. And that's what happens with current day MMIW cases. Our relatives are gone. We don't know where they're at, or we don't know if they're alive even. So the work that we do surrounding MMIW cases, or MMIP cases, we will say that it's sacred, because it is sacred to us. Yeah, there's just a lot that goes with that. And even the work that we do here in a big city like Dallas, we still, even if we aren't in crisis mode with a case happening, we are always in that survival mode, fighting to be acknowledged and recognized. And things slowly are shifting in our city specifically in Dallas. But I have access to things, spaces, work, spaces to educate like this, that my parents or grandparents that came on relocation would have never thought could happen. So our survival is changing a bit. Our survival isn't necessarily staying alive, with the idea of staying alive. It still is in the majority of cases, but our survival happens now through keeping our stories alive, and our languages alive, and our customs alive, and staying safe. And I think that there is a difference between surviving and staying safe, and that's something that we're constantly in limbo with, because it can turn in an instant. You think you're safe, and then you're not. And something that we struggle with, even as an organization, is finding the resources to keep people safe. We deal with missing individuals, but our work deals with, well, let me pause on that for a second and go back a step. We deal with missing individuals, but because of the position we hold in our communities, we are seen as a very safe space for people, and respected with the knowledge that we have. And we get asked to help domestic violence situations. We get asked to help mental health crisis. We have been asked to help in situations of suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, just a ton of different things. So we talk about this survival and this safety, but that encompasses so much within our communities. And our community sees the work we do, but they see the obstacles as well. And that the obstacles go hand in hand with systemic racism on so many levels. Combating anything that we deal with doesn't necessarily help to go to the city level or the state level, because of our, and I say with quotes, our sovereignty and citizenship and things like that, because oftentimes our citizenship isn't acknowledged, that we belong to different nations besides being a US citizen. I have talked to local police about how they acknowledge citizenship from a foreign country, but they will not and do not understand why our nations within this country have to be contacted if somebody is found murdered or missing. So that education, you think it's a lack of education, but it comes down to this this world of systemic racism and understanding that our existence really depends on people's understanding of us and understanding that we do have dual citizenship and things like that. And we always run into, well, can't the tribes pay for this, or government pays for this for your people or for y'all? And that's not the case. We don't get a lot of assistance. We don't get any assistance, really. I've never gotten any assistance. And a lot of people are descendants and have Native ancestors and things like that, but can't get citizenship because of things like blood quantum. Blood quantum is something, if you don't understand blood quantum, if you've ever understood the pedigrees of horses or dogs, that's our existence. We get citizenship based on the majority of tribes, based on blood quantum. Literally, how much blood from this tribe that you have within you, what makes you up. It's a world of confusing mathematics and a lot of colonized ideas, and that feeds into the lack of resources we have and the lack of help that we get for not only missing and murdered Indigenous women, but our health, our education, our economy. All of these things are dependent on citizenship and blood quantum, which is a extremely colonized colonial idea, which came to be to kind of destroy us, to basically, the more people that are born into this tribe, the further down the generations you go, the less blood quantum you have, the less blood you would have that makes you enough to be a citizen. And all of these things, that's what I think when I hear survival mode and Indigenous survival. All of these things that are obstacles to have you be a person. So not only do we deal with violence and systemic racism, but our tribal governments have been extremely colonized, and those are issues that we combat as well. So there's a lot that goes into all of this. But our existence isn't just this sad, doom and gloom. We have what feels like a renaissance of sorts going on within our nations and our people and especially within our youth, for this drive that has happened, this empowerment that has happened to not only combat things like systemic racism, but environmental racism, and just in standing up for what is right. I think within my existence, I'm 39 years old. I feel like this is probably one of the first times in my life that I've seen so many people not afraid to speak out for what's right, if that's to fight pipelines or to end racism through mascots or climate change or MMIW. This is the first time I feel like there are so many people willing to talk. Even if it's in smaller spaces like this, even if it's through Zoom, this is the first time I feel like this has happened. And I feel like that needs to be acknowledged as Indigenous survival, that we're not afraid to risk the backlash or risk what might happen to us for speaking out. Because even with this work with MMIW, I've seen people call our work racist or a form of racism because we've called out law enforcement. And I've literally seen people like physically at events call MMIW organizations or even a family racist. And I never understood it until I took a step back and maybe worked on the scope, the frame that I was looking at the situation with, and that was systemic racism, and that they equated law enforcement with being white. And for us to call out law enforcement was to call out white people. I couldn't understand, but when I did, I couldn't believe or didn't want to believe. But that is what our survival looks like. Trying to survive ends up with you being called racist. Those are just some things that make up the work that we do. Something that goes along with our work right now is that there's task force. So with the Trump presidency came Operation Lady Justice. And it makes no sense to me and a lot of people that it was an acknowledgement of this crisis, but not an understanding of what we deal with. There are a lot of government level people within this task force that really have no hands-on experience or understanding within communities on the ground doing these searches. Even though they go to tribes, they go to nations to try to get this work done, we're often excluded, where we don't have a seat at the table when it comes to how the government, the U.S. government, plays a part in this. And I think that's just another one of the obstacles. Tribes striving to assert their sovereignty are confronted with this understanding that not all tribal citizens live on tribal land or reservations. In fact, over 70% of all American Indian people in this country live in urban areas. And that's shocking to a lot of non-Native people. That's our reality. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention the identification of people, like how I am using, Indigenous in the term Indigenous survival. I identify as American Indian, and I identify as my tribes, and also I I say Native a lot when talking about my community, and because I get asked that a lot as well, like Indigenous, American Indian, Native American, like how people identify. But I actually, one thing I do tell people is I know not one person that identifies as Native American. Like I cannot tell you anyone that does. So yeah, just just keep that in mind when trying to understand. And I always find myself using Native, Indigenous, American Indian, tribal citizens like interchangeably, and I know that can be confusing to an audience that isn't American Indian. So I apologize for that. I should have stated that. But yeah, all of these terms I think kind of help understand the public understanding, our society's understanding of our people, the Indigenous people of this land, and what we have to deal with, and what we have to deal with to be seen as a person, and as people, and as citizens, and as communities. Because of these things, I feel like we stay in that survival mode. Yeah, so I know I know I shared a lot of information, especially in regards to this crisis specifically. I hope that this time and in this space and the education that I have offered, I know it was brief. I hope that this is just the beginning of a relationship within not only the American Indian community, but with our work specifically with MMIW and with MMIW Texas Rematriate. Like I said, we are new in our journey to becoming a nonprofit and doing this work on our own, and all of the care and support in any kind of way would just be would be amazing. And I hope that we can make this relationship grow and build and support each other. And I would love to be able to do this again or answer questions or anything like that in the future when maybe when we're not in pandemic still. And but yeah, I would like to go ahead and close my time there, and just want to share my gratitude for having the time with you all today. Thank you.
Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and hope. For we are now the keepers of the dream. To make an offering or your pledge, please go to oakcliffuu.org/donate and follow the links.
I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. De ti yo recibo, a ti te doy. Así compartimos y vivimos hoy. Receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. De ti yo recibo, a ti te doy. Así compartimos y vivimos hoy.
As We Go Forward by Cheryl Block. As we go forward into this frightening, exhilarating, confusing, miraculous world, may we offer our comfort to the afflicted, our love to those who are lonely, and our wish for all to be safe.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón hasta que estemos juntos otra vez.